Mike Boynton, welcome to Combos Court, man. How you feeling today?
I feel great. How are you?
I am doing well, Mike. It's great to have
Yeah.
you on the show. It's crazy because from our city, we've seen so many NBA players, a lot of high-level overseas guys, but not a lot of guys that coach, actually are the head coach at a high major like Oklahoma State. Take me through the journey. And also I wanted to ask you, you had an opportunity to play overseas. Do you feel like it was a blessing in disguise not going and starting the college coaching journey early?
Yeah, I mean, the story of my life in many ways has been about redirection and adapting to, the circumstances in front of you. And, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. And obviously, when you're from there and you grew up in the 80s and 90s like I did, and you were a hooper, that was everything. The competition was at a really, really high level. I was fortunate to have, peers of mine that were super talented dudes, but also really good people. And I could start rattling off a list that would probably take up the whole podcast, but we're talking about the likes of Omar Cook, Andre Barrett, and Talik Brown, just in my high school graduating class. 3 McDonald's All-American point guards, and I happened to be the 4th best point guard in New York City at the time. There wasn't room for a 4th New York City point guard on the All-American list. So I didn't make that team, but I was because I was able to compete against those guys, I got better, and therefore I was good enough to still go play at a pretty high level in college. Got recruited by several schools, UMass, Hofstra, Seton Hall, Boston College, but ultimately chose to go to the University of South Carolina in Columbia, playing in the SEC. Eddie Fogler was the head coach at the time I was recruited. He had coached at North Carolina under Coach Dean Smith. He had recruited Michael Jordan and Jerry Stackhouse and so on and so forth, a bunch of really, really good players in his time as an assistant coach. And, I got to South Carolina and had an opportunity to really learn basketball, like almost semi-pro, playing in that league at the time with Kentucky and Florida, LSU with Ron Dupree, Ole Miss with Justin Reed and the likes of those guys. And so I was exposed to high-level basketball as a youth, but then also in college. And like many other guys, I hoped that I had an opportunity to go play professional basketball. Early on, that dream was the NBA. As I got more closer to the end, it became more of a realistic option for me to say, maybe overseas for some time is the route. And I guess really, fortunately, I got injured before I ever played a day of professional basketball. And I say that in a realistic manner, as a 40-year-old looking back, I wouldn't be where I am today had I had an opportunity to continue my basketball playing career for another 4 or 5 years, and then found myself coming back onto the college basketball scene, trying to figure out how to navigate that world on the other side.
Yeah, I'm from New York myself. Do you feel the toughness, the grittiness that becomes innate as a New York City guard, such as yourself, helped you throughout the college journey and landed where you are, like helped you land to where you're at today?
Yeah, New York City made me who I am. Brooklyn specifically because, competitiveness, if you do any kind of assessment on me, is the thing that's going to jump out off the page at you. Everything about my world, my decision-making is about winning. It's about being competitive. It's about having other competitive people around me. And a lot of that has to do with, like I said, man, I was a point guard and trying to find my way in the class of 2000 with the competition that was, to my right and left all around me at all times. You either competed or you didn't make it, period.
Yeah. True.
So what comes with that is some toughness and resilience and understanding that maybe you're the underdog, but you can still get the job done. So there's no doubt that those streets of New York City, Brooklyn especially, had a lot to do with who I am today, but who I've been all my life.
Okay, I'm going to shift this conversation slightly. I want to take it to college basketball practice in general, because about 20 years ago, 10 to 20 years ago, I'd say the feeling I had about college basketball practice in general, and you could correct me if you feel that I'm wrong, is that there was an overemphasis on conditioning and probably not enough emphasis on skill development. Has that changed within the college landscape over the years?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak for every program, but the
Right.
ones that I've been associated with, and this is going to be my 19th year in college basketball coaching.
Wow. Crazy.
And then the 4 years I spent playing, there was definitely an overemphasis on the conditioning aspect, right? And I can sit here as a head coach and say that when I first started as an assistant, you only know what you know, right? And so I was one of the assistants, like, yo, we got to get these guys in shape. We got to get these guys in shape. Even as a guy who played the game his whole life, but never really thought about conditioning for basketball. You just played. Even the strength part, like the physical development part, that wasn't a big deal. I never lifted weights at all until I got to college. And I was like, why are we lifting weights? like,
Right.
like we're basketball players, you know? But I definitely think there's been a shift uh, in many instances to more emphasis being on guys really learning how to play the game, how to understand, read and react, decision making, timing. I wish that kids, this generation of players that are coming up now, played more 5 on
Yes.
5, but they definitely train more than we did.
It's
We played more.
it's crazy you say that, because obviously you watch a lot more high school basketball than I do. But when I watch it, I see guys with effortless shooting motions. The shots look really good. The weapons they have as offensive players, incredible. But I would say what's lacking is maybe the ability to make those in between passes that might not lead to the assist. Like feel for the game type stuff, I feel like is lacking today.
Even the passes that lead to the assist.
Oh, okay. Even
I
that.
mean,
Okay.
I think we got to start there. The pass, just the pass that leads to
Okay.
the assist,
Okay.
because so much of it is about individual scoring, finishing, and they become really good at the floaters and the runners and the same foot, same leg
Yes.
layup, like things that we didn't really think of, right? When we were growing up, it was convention. It was two-hand passes. Like they can do those things. They don't. They don't have feel for how it actually translates in a game.
Exactly.
Because again, you can put as many cones out there as you want. At some point, when there's 5 bodies out there, those people are going to be moving in their arms and their legs, and dealing with all that is going to create a totally different scenario than just being out there. I come off a ball screen, I'm a split this time. Well, it may not be a split. Like you got to really kind of have a body out there to see what the positioning is, and then when you get to the next level, right? You're talking about just making a pass because your teammates got a better opportunity to feed the post, right?
Right. Or just even passing up instead of pounding,
just
right?
pitching the ball ahead on the break,
Yes.
right? And giving your teammate an opportunity to then go make the play, or understanding the one more. You may have a good shot that's not overly contested, but your teammates got a wide open one. And again, not playing 5 on 5, getting up and down and seeing those situations. So as outside of games, really has limited these guys' ability to make those decisions, as you said.
Do you feel that just playing the sport more could help with that? Like, is this a fixable thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Experience is our best teacher.
Right.
And I think so many kids now, and I don't even know if it's just kids. I think in general, like we're more afraid of failure now than we used to be.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, because when you go to a workout, it's like there's no way you could fail, right?
There's
If you
no
play
way to
against,
fail.
yeah, if you play against people, you could
Yeah, you
definitely
can
fail.
like there was a consequence. You go to the
Yeah.
park and lose, like you may not get on the court for a while. Like, like
Yeah, but I think, Mike, it's also the way the kids are playing, because they're playing like 4 AAU games in a day, but it's just
sure. Yeah.
ISO.
Yeah. I watched a lot of obviously AAU basketball, high school basketball, and I think coaches do what they can to cater to their best players. That's not new.
Right.
But there's not as many, it's not as much standards on playing the game in a collective manner as it used to be.
Yeah.
The thing, and obviously I'm if you ask GOAT questions, right, I'm gonna lean towards MJ, and I respect the heck out of LeBron because I still think he plays the game the right way. Like LeBron is going to pass the ball to an open teammate when a situation calls for him to pass the ball to an open teammate. So I respect that about him the same as I did about MJ. MJ expected you to make that shot, Steve Kerr, John Paxson, when he passed it to you. Just like LeBron expects, whoever it is, Kyrie or whatever his teammate, AD, to make the open shot. And a lot of times these kids aren't exposed to having to be held accountable to playing the game collectively. They have so much more emphasis on their individual impact. And it's really individual impact just in terms of scoring.
Yeah.
It's not rebounding. It's not screening. It's not cutting. It's not, all the other things that go into making a good offensive team work.
Yeah. I mean, you did coach a young man that got it really early, Cade Cunningham. What did you learn about Cade as a player, Cade as a person, and what allowed him to get the part of the game that we're speaking about, just get that so early?
Yeah, so I'll give you the quick version of the story. I saw Cade for the very first time when he was 14 years old, except I didn't know he was 14 years old. I actually went to his high school in the fall of 2016 to watch one of his teammates, who was a junior at the time. Kid name is Kyler Edwards, who ended up going to Texas Tech, transferred to Houston, played with Houston's team this past year that went to the Elite Eight. And so I get to the gym, and their high school coach says, "Hey, you're here to see Kyler. I wouldn't mind you looking at this other kid over here. He's a good player. Let me know what you think after the workout." And so I go watch the workout, and I'm overly impressed with his skill and feel for the game. And he's about 6'5" at the time. He's got big, broad shoulders. Yeah. He's got a little bit of a baby face, but he played the game in a way that he did, like I saw Cade 3 times in that practice, get a rebound, take a bounce, and throw the ball off the bounce with his left hand down the court to an open teammate. And I was like, what? Like, okay. So after the practice, the coach comes to me and says, "Hey, what do you think about this kid?" And I was like, "No, he's pretty good, but tell me, what's wrong? Is he a kid who doesn't have grades?" Because his game was so mature, I thought he was a kid who was being under-recruited, or was maybe he didn't have good grades and needed some help going to junior college. And the coach is like, no. He's a freshman. He just started school last week. And I'm like, well, hold on. I need to talk to Kyler, but hold that other dude tight 1 second. Because if you're telling me he's 14 years old, then that dude's going to be special because he did so many naturally instinctive, unselfish, good basketball things that it was like, at 6'5", he's gonna grow, he's gonna fill out, and he ultimately became a 6'8", 225-pound freshman point guard for me. But a lot of it, what came from, he was exposed to the game in its purest fashion early on. His brother, Cannon, played at SMU for Larry Brown. And if you know anything about Coach Brown, you're gonna play the game the right way.
Yeah, definitely. That's old school.
Yeah, and then his brother worked for Mike Dunleavy, another old school kind of just purist of the game. Yeah. And so his brother took it upon himself to pass along really transferable things to Cade. Told him, this is how you have success as you continue to move up this game. And Cade, to his credit, took the advice, because sometimes younger, more talented guys don't listen always. And I was really fortunate because he taught me a lot of things about the game and about it can still be done. Guys can still be held accountable, and that the best players want to play the game the right way.
Yeah, I could imagine there was a lot of challenges coaching Cade in the sense to how to use this guy because he was so versatile.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the biggest challenge for me coaching Cade was that he was so easy to coach.
Wow.
Like incredibly coachable. Cade started every game that he played for us. He missed 3 games because we were dealing with COVID that year. He was with us. But every game he started at point guard for us. But the whole season, Cade never, when we go to skill development during practice, he never worked with our guards. He worked with our post players every day. Because it was an area that he wanted to improve in, and we didn't have a bunch of great post players. And so I thought to myself, at 6'8", 225, and I had a kid who was 6'4", about 210, Isaac Likely, who was the other backcourt mate of him. That was my start backcourt. Like, no one's going to roll out this size in the backcourt.
Yeah.
So I can give ourselves an advantage if these guys are good as post players. And never once did Cade fight, go work on Mikins or jump hooks or off. Like, he was like all about it. Like, and that really opened my eyes to just why he's good. Like, what is gonna be successful? Like, is it gonna help us win? Like, that was always the only thing that drove his motivation.
It shows how smart he is, because you're from New York and all the bigger guys never wanted to play bigs. And this guy was going to be the #1 pick.
Absolutely.
And he didn't want to go with the guards and work on his handle or whatever. He wanted to get down there with the bigs. It just shows how smart of a young man he was.
Really mature. I mean, obviously you worry as a head coach, and I'm a young head coach, right? There was a lot of eyes on us when I had him, and eyes on me. Like,
that's true. That's true, because every NBA talent evaluator is watching every game.
Sure. Yeah. And coming on the heels of Ben Simmons goes to LSU. Super talent. Their team's terrible. Markelle Fultz. I mean, I'm talking about high-level guys who were really, really good players and became top picks who went to college in non-traditional blue bloods, right?
Right.
Saying that I don't have to go to XYZ school to still be effective. But it didn't happen. So after Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz goes to Washington. Awful. Their team's awful.
Yeah.
Both of those guys, coaches, good friends of mine. Both of them get fired. Anthony Edwards, the year before Cade, goes to Georgia. They won like 8 games. I mean,
right.
So it's like, can this work with a high-level talented guy, not going with other really high-level talented guys and play still high major basketball and have success? Well, Cade, understood that and was willing to make sure that winning was the priority. And so obviously we had the tournament run. He was the player of the year in the league as a freshman, led the league in scoring, and shot 40% from 3 when that was the knock on him coming in. Like, he just took a very professional approach to both winning and development that I hadn't seen with a lot of guys his age.
Was it a challenge creating space around him? Because that was the big thing that talent evaluators were talking about. Like, he's going to have a lot more space in the NBA. How was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the space in the NBA is by a byproduct of the rules of the NBA. I mean, like, there's always more space in the NBA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, there's more talent in the NBA for everybody.
Right. Better shooters, more space.
Sure.
Right.
And so we didn't have probably the ideal team for him, but we had some other good players who had pretty good success. Likely was a good backcourt mate, kid Avery Anderson that we brought off the bench that year, he's kind of a borderline guy right now. He had a really good year. He averaged 19 a game for the last 2 months of the season. And a part of it was, when you have a guy like Cade out there, every team is putting their best defender on that dude.
Yes.
All right. Yes. So if I still have 2 other really good players out there, you're not putting your best defender on 3 different dudes.
Yeah.
So those other guys are able to get off. Our post players are able to get lobs, and Cade was a willing screener, a willing passer, a willing cutter.
He really is so versatile. It's almost like I would think about if I'm coaching him, like, obviously you want to give him the basketball. That's the best thing to do. But there's so many different ways you could use him.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cade had the second most post ups on our team that year.
It's crazy.
He had the most ball screen. He was obviously #1 in ball screen as the handler. He was actually 3rd on our team in ball screen as the screener.
Yeah, it's insane because he's going to be one of your best catch and shoot guys. He's going to be the best guy.
Sure.
Initiating offense. He's going to,
absolutely.
And he showed he's one of the best guys in the post. It's just a crazy talent. I wanted to ask you this, Mike. With the NIL deals, how has that changed the way you recruit?
Well, it's changed a lot about the conversation in recruiting. I don't know if it's necessarily changed how we recruit.
Okay.
And obviously some of it is still to be determined on how much of this stuff is real out there, right?
Right.
Like, we see crazy stuff, but we're New Yorkers, man. Like, surely there's not a bunch of college basketball players making $500,000, that haven't really performs.
Also, like the companies have to figure out, right?
Sure.
Is this worth it? Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Like there's going to be it's going to come down. There's always going to be outliers. If Cade was here, he would be a guy that would be a top of the line, top tier earner, right? And so you just got to have some principles that you stand for. You got to still try to make it about the main mission, which is education, development, and then future opportunities. And what the kids have to understand is if you want to be marketable, or if you want to be somebody who companies want to associate themselves with, the best path to that is being really good at basketball.
That's always the best path.
I don't know many NBA players that have to run out kind of, promoting themselves to get Pepsi or, McDonald's.
Oh no, I heard these college players are like in the company's DMs, like NIL.
Yeah, like just get good. Like try that. Go be really good at what you do, and they'll call you.
Yeah. I mean, if you're really good at basketball, everything else will take care of itself.
Usually, right? If you keep the main thing, then the other things that come with that are easier, right?
Wow, that's a great quote.
But a lot of times,
the main thing. I love that.
Yeah, but a lot of times if you lose focus and you try to manipulate the things that aren't as important, you don't get the benefit of that, but you also suffer in the main thing. Because you're not spending as much time in the gym. You're on social media, you're hanging out, trying to, on IG, whatever it is.
It must be so much tougher for these kids these days to stay focused, right?
Oh, there's no doubt. I kind of feel sorry for them in many ways. I feel fortunate that we didn't have as many distractions. Part of the reason we were at the park,
yeah,
exactly, all day long. Because, first of all, everybody didn't have a game system. Nobody had phones. Nobody had, social media didn't even exist. And so you really had to go outside and do something that you really enjoyed. You had to find friends and you had to kind of be a little bit more creative. These kids don't have to really think that much, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, we see a guy like Jaden Hardy slip to the second round. We see a guy like Paulo get a Jordan sneaker deal. You probably see where I'm going with this when it comes to the alternative routes. Sure. Are there situations where it's in the best player's interest to take those alternative routes, or do you usually think it's the best idea to go to college?
I still think just because there's a proven, I don't know how many years, 100 years of data on college athletics and the fan bases and the following that's already built in. Mm-hmm. And I think, there's no greater example in my mind than the 2021 draft class, Cade's draft class. I think Jalen Grant and Jonathan Kuminga were both rated higher than Cade coming in to college.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Evan Mobley, I think Cade might have been like, they were the top four guys. There was no doubt. But Cade and Evan both went college. And even in a year with the pandemic, they were on TV. Cade was, I came home sometimes like, man, turn the channel. Like, I see enough of this dude, man. Like, he was on TV every day.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times Jalen and Jonathan, who went to G League route, played on any network. Like, you had to kind of go search those dudes out. And the other thing is, the level of competition that, in terms of reputable competition that Cade faced every day. He played against Baylor 3 times. He played against Kansas twice. He played against Texas twice. And so
like, to be honest, it's almost tougher to score at that level in a lot of ways than the NBA.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So yeah. We kind of, this was the more difficult route for Cade. Like, first of all, non-traditional blue blood, but also against the highest level competition twice a year against Bill Self, 2 times in a year against Bob Huggins.
Yeah.
So the pressure to be on twice a week, every week when everybody's looking at you to produce the way he did, it was pretty fascinating.
I do like the idea that they have more options now, though.
No, I love it. And again, college isn't for everyone.
True.
I'm realistic about that. I just also know that if there's a realistic path through college, there's enough data that says this is a proven route to get better. Again, the weight room, the strength and conditioning, the nutrition, the medical, like all that stuff. Some of these guys are going overseas. They forfeit all that. Even the G League component is better in my mind than going to Australia.
Yeah.
Nothing against Australia.
I mean, it worked. It worked for LaMelo, but yeah.
There's been a lot of guys who tried it.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, like, to your point, general managers have grown up watching the NCAA tournament, and that's where their eyes are going to be.
Absolutely. There's access, a lot of access points here.
Yeah.
So, if you go play and, you know, I don't know, maybe a guy can go over there and watch you for a week.
Yeah. Do you feel there should, like you mentioned, that there's obviously more gravity, more spacing in the NBA than NC2A, and the rules you said have something to do with that. Do you feel like there should be more uniformity when it comes to the NC2A and NBA basketball when it comes to rules?
I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on this. I really feel like part of the reason that the NBA works as well as it does, those are the best dudes, man. Like, I don't know if college guys, by and large, because most college guys aren't NBA players. Like,
there's not a lot of Cade Cunninghams like running around, right?
I think there was a time, I tell this to my staff all the time, there was a time where we understood getting to the NBA was damn near impossible. And it still is. But we don't think about it like that anymore.
Yeah, I was trying to see where you were going with it.
Like, we don't think about it like that anymore. Like, we crown all these kids as pros. Like, how are they all going to make it to the NBA? Hey, they can't. They're all not good enough. Most of them aren't.
Yeah, there's only so. Well, first of all, there's only so many spots.
There's only so many spots. 75 years the NBA's been around, right? 75 years. They just had the 75 years of the NBA.
Yeah.
You probably know this number, but do you know the number of total NBA players that have played in the NBA?
I think I heard it was 5,000.
Not 5,000 yet.
Okay.
Less than 5,000 people have played in the NBA in 75 years. And today, think about right now where we are. If you think about the best players in the NBA going into next season, if you just started rattling off names, how many of those names will be out of the NBA in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, you could just go to video from 5 years ago and see all those guys who aren't playing anymore, you know?
My point is, I think that most of the guys, I think the NBA is as young as it's ever been.
Yeah. A lot of projects. A lot of projects too.
But Luka, Jokic, Giannis, Trae Young, Donovan Williams,
Mitchell,
Donovan Mitchell, Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, like these guys who are now signing their first, some of them signing their second max deal, they're going to be in the NBA for the next 5. There's really only like 25 spots. There's not 400. We say 400 because that's the total number, but a lot of these dudes are going to be in the NBA for a long time.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you're a certain type of player that don't fit one of those NBA roles, like if you're a 6-foot bucket getter and you're incredible,
yes,
you might be even one of the best in the world at that. And you could end up overseas.
In the world.
Yeah.
Omar Cook, who was my best friend growing up, is still to this day the best passing point guard I've ever seen. He averaged 10 assists a game in college. You know how hard it is to average 10 assists?
Yeah, it's crazy. He was a great defender too.
Tremendous defender.
Yeah.
He couldn't find a way. Couldn't. When I watched Trayvon Duvall 5 years ago, Billy Preston 5 years ago, dudes were like surefire. They haven't sniffed the league.
Yeah, it's tough.
Like, not close.
It's tough.
And if I go in my locker room tomorrow and say, hey, show of hands, how many guys are going to play in the NBA?
They all go up.
Every hand. And it's not just my locker room.
Well, do you like that mentality?
I like it.
Right.
But I also want to have an appreciation for what we're doing now. Because for most of them, this is the highest level of basketball they're going to play at.
Yeah.
Like, enjoy this. Have aspirations. You better understand it's hard. You got to work. but like don't be looking ahead. My point to them is don't be looking past this like that's a guarantee.
Yeah. I mean, you might be more of an unbelievable story than somebody that made the league. I mean, a guy from Brooklyn, New York City,
Think about this.
head coach
How about
in his
that?
30s.
How about that? There are more of their jobs available than there are of mine.
I know. Yeah. That is that is crazy. That is crazy.
No,
All right. Go ahead.
go ahead.
So we'll end with this. I mean, you mentioned Omar, and I don't know if you saw the NYC Point Guards documentary.
Of course.
Great documentary. Just had Kenny Anderson on the pod. Great documentary. Do you feel there's anybody that was left out of that doc?
Yeah, there's no documentary that could cover it all.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
first name that comes to my mind, I'm Brooklyn biased, is Jamal Tinsley.
Tough. Tough.
You know,
Oh man. He was so tough,
I mean,
man.
yeah, but there's a bunch of guys. I mean, Eric Barkley, Jerome Holman Fridge, who played at St. Pat's and then went to Wichita Stays. Those are guys just from Brooklyn. So yeah, I mean, but like I said, you can't cover them all. There's not enough TV airtime. The commercials, you'd have to buy like a network for a whole day to cover it.
It's crazy how many great point guards we had if they had Omar Cook just talking about the NYC point guards.
How about that?
Like he didn't even get his own feature. Like that shows how deep it was.
Andre Barrett,
Yeah.
All-American, played in the NBA, didn't. I mean, those guys, and again, those are my peers. Those are the guys I grew up butting heads with. Luis Flores, like,
My guy.
I mean, tough. One of the toughest dudes I've ever had to defend. Ben Gordon, Mount Vernon. I mean,
Yeah.
won the national championship at UConn, played in the league. I think he made an all-star team.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's not even in the doc. That shows how deep it
not
is.
even in the discussion.
Mike, what do you feel happened to the NYC point guard? I mean, I think a lot of it is that the position is just different now. I mean, a lot of players are hybrid type players. I think some of it is the New York City's best players just go to different states. What's your feel on it?
No, that's a big part of it is the transient nature of New York City, right? Is people aren't staying there and finishing it out. All those guys, they talked about their experiences finishing high school and then the next step, Rod Strickland going to DePaul, but being from New York, Mark Jackson going to St. John's, Kenny Smith, Kenny Anderson, like all those guys, they grew up there, spent their whole lives there.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys now are leaving before the end. And so people don't necessarily associate them with New York City as much as whatever prep school they went to or, whatever college they may have gone to. That's a part of it, but there's no doubt the position is different.
Yeah.
The Derrick Rose, Russell Westbrook influence on the athleticism and scoring-minded nature of that spot is less Chris Paul's and types that are.
Do you think that position in general, not even from New York, do you think that position will become extinct eventually? Because like Chris Paul is one of the last guys. Trey doesn't really play like that. I mean, some of the younger guys don't really play like pure point guards.
Yeah, I don't know. And we talk about this kind of going back to the recruiting piece. We don't really talk in positions anymore.
Yeah, true.
Because again, when I think about the best players, they're really multi-dimensional guys who like what position is Giannis?
Yeah.
Like what position is Luka? I know we say he's a point guard. I mean, because he has the ball in his hand 90% of the game.
It kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Just give your best guy the ball. Like we were talking about that in AAU. Like that's what happened in the NBA.
Like I don't know if Cade's a point guard. I don't know that. I mean, but
yeah.
He was gonna have the ball in his hands. Decision maker. So yeah, you talk about decision. You now talk about decision makers, playmakers, shot shooters, shot makers, finishers, right? You talk in those terms more than.
So you're talking more tendencies than position.
Talking more skill set.
Got
more
it.
More skill set. Yeah.
Mike, great stuff. Thank you so much for taking the time, man. You're always welcome back. Hey, are you active on social media? Where can we find you, man? I mean, obviously, if we watch Oklahoma State, we could see you on the sidelines, but where can we find you?
I guess I'm fairly active on Twitter.
Okay.
At the Coach Mike, THACOACHMIKE, and Coach Mike 3OH. So 3, little play on O there. on Instagram. So
there you go.
Coach Mike 30, and then on Twitter at the Coach Mike, THACOACHMIKE.
Really appreciate you taking the time, Mike. You're always welcome back on the show. Talk soon, man.
Appreciate you having me.
And good luck on your season.
Thanks a lot.
Talk soon.
All right.